This is something that the average person really has no idea about whatsoever. Not just the average person. Smart people on Wall Street have usually not the faintest clue about manufacturing and how difficult it is. I think that once you have come up with a prototype, well, that's the hard part, and everything else is trivial copying after that. It is not. That is perhaps 1% of the problem. Large-scale manufacturing, especially of a new technology, is somewhere between 1,000% and 10,000% harder than the prototype. But I'm also not trying to convince people that much. The results will speak for themselves. We have produced the cells we're talking about. We've produced many of them.
Okay.
My premise is never to try to convince people why they should invest in Tesla. Sell your stock. I don't care. I think some critical mass of the market has concluded that Tesla will win, I guess. I mean, I've gone on record already as saying I think the stock price is a bit high. That was well before its current level. So, but if you ask me, like, do I think Tesla will be worth more than this in 5 years? I think the answer is yes. Yeah, honestly, I do not see this really as a question of consumer demand, although I think from a personal investment standpoint, like basically, I do not think this is a wise time to invest in gasoline cars. So buying a new gasoline car, probably not a wise long-term financial decision at this point. Electric cars are the future. There's really no question about that at this point.
And your stock went up, Elon, by something like 8-9%, just based on that tweet alone. Is that a surprise to you?
Yes. I mean, that seems like an unlikely thing to happen just based on a tweet. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's surprising. I don't really follow the stock that much. Because I think sometimes the stock moves for kind of random reasons, and if that ends up being a mood barometer, then it's not a happy life.
Well, because a few weeks ago you had said yourself, look, you thought the stock was a little bit high, and it then fell about 10% after that. So do you still think the stock is a little high?
Well, it depends on how people. If somebody's a long-term holder of the stock, I think there's a lot of appreciation that will occur in the long term. In the short term, it's difficult to predict these fluctuations. But it does seem as though, for a company that had a few $1 billion in revenue last year, and I think that's, I think there's certainly lots of people on the internet who say that. And,
So you still feel that way then about your stock?
No, I mean, I feel like it's always difficult to predict the short-term fluctuations. So if someone's a long-term holder of the stock, I don't think they should sell the stock. I think it will appreciate and ultimately be much higher than it is today. But in terms of short-term fluctuations, that's impossible to say.
What happens, Elon, if the car does in fact crash? Who is going to be responsible when that car is on autopilot?
Yeah, so I think it's important for us to differentiate autonomous driving versus autopilot. Autopilot is what they have in airplanes. For example, we use the same term that they use in airplanes, where there's still an expectation that there will be a pilot. So if the onus is on the pilot to make sure that the autopilot is doing the right thing.
But that doesn't still address the question, though, Elon, which is, let's say it's on autopilot, so it's not autonomous. But if it's on autopilot and a driver says, hey, this was supposed to change lanes for me, and instead it hit this barrier, I want Tesla to be responsible for this.
Yeah, I think we're going to be quite clear with customers that the responsibility remains with the driver. Okay. We're not asserting that the car is capable of driving in the absence of driver oversight. That will be the case at some point in the future. Well, I think that there's very few areas in life where you can sell things that you don't own, and the short selling really where you can sell shares that you don't own. When I said it was vestigial, I mean it came from an era when stocks were traded by people traveling on horseback to exchange stock certificates. And in order to have the transaction speed not take weeks, somebody would say, well, the stock certificate is coming on that horse. I don't have the stock certificate right now, but I promise you that I'm getting the stock certificate. And the rider is going to be here. I'm in New York. The rider is going to be here from Chicago in 3 days, and then I'll be able to give you the stock certificate. Yeah. That's where this whole silly thing arose. Yeah. But then the problem is, like, the way short selling is used today is it's kind of like it's frankly used against the public. So most people aren't aware that short selling even exists. And then the ones that are, very few of them know actually how to use it. It's basically like 0.01% of stockholders know how to use short positions to get ahead. And it's like, I think, effectively a tax on the public.
I think it's immoral myself. I just don't think it's right at all. A big group can come in and crush a company simply because, well, we're going to make a lot of money. I haven't made my quota this month or what have you. So I really don't care for it.
I mean, Tesla was under a massive attack by the short and distort, where they take a short position and then they do everything possible to trash the company in 6 ways to Sunday. And they were successful. And this has now happened to Tesla twice. It happened in 2013, and it happened in basically 2017 through 2019. I mean, the intensity of the attack was crazy. And I was like, man, this it would like cause you to lose faith in humanity, the degree to which this went on. And like, we don't have shorting in like private companies. The vast majority of companies, over 90%, are private, and you cannot short them. And yet somehow we get private companies get things done. So there's a perniciously false effective markets argument made for shorting, and but it is vice disguised as virtue.
What the fuck Bill Gates was talking about when he was saying that you can't do trucks? What was?
Yeah, I didn't know what you were talking about.
Why did he say that then? Like, why would someone?
I don't know. Probably somebody told him that, and he just
repeated it.
He's just not that close to the physics of it, and so
I
don't think he's ill-intentioned here. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
But why say it then? Like, you think about a guy who's so involved in technology, you would think he would only talk about things you understand.
I don't know. It's weird. I also heard that at one point he had a big short position against Tesla, which was kind of, I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems weird. People I know who know the situation well, I said, "Are you sure?" They said, "Yeah, he had a big short position against Tesla, which obviously didn't work out too well." But anyway, I think he's generally got good intentions here. I think he's probably just not. I don't hate Bill Gates, to be clear. I think he just probably doesn't know the science.
Elon has in the past claimed you shorted Tesla, and I wonder if there's any truth to that.
Well, I think Tesla's an amazing company. I wish I'd, been more on the long side, but it's great. And I have lots of relatives who own Teslas that I've helped buy for them. So, nothing but positive thoughts about Tesla and its role.